I want to start with Eugenio Suarez. I mean, this is by far the best available bat at the trade deadline. The Yankees just took their name off the list. So, what do you think about Geno Suarez and what he could bring to the table for some of the other teams looking for third base help? Potentially Chicago, potentially Detroit, potentially the Mariners still. What do you think about where he could go? And what have you seen from him, offense and defense, this year that stands out?
I mean, the offense is pretty easy to talk about, right? I mean, the man just hits home runs in bunches. It's been unbelievable to watch here recently. He's up to 36 home runs now for the season, and he's on pace for something like 57, I believe, which would tie a Diamondbacks franchise record if he actually stuck around and did that. So, yeah, I mean, I think we all know, Scott, that teams love power this time of year. If you're a contender and trying to put yourself in position to go on a deep playoff run, I think it's well documented at this point that home runs are a really big part of the equation. And if you want home runs, there's really no one better on the market than Geno Suarez, certainly not. On the defensive side, I do wonder if maybe that played a role in the Yankees' calculus and in pivoting to Ryan McMahon. Geno Suarez is by no means a terrible third baseman at this stage in his career, but I think it's safe to say that he's slipped a little bit defensively. Just looking at outs above average over on Baseball Savant, he was at positive 12 a couple years ago with the Mariners. He was at +3 last year with the Diamondbacks, and this year he's at -6 up to this point in the season. So, I wouldn't necessarily call him a liability out there, but the Yankees are definitely getting a better defender in Ryan McMahon at third base.
If we're playing the prediction game, do you have any thoughts on where you think he could end up? Sometimes I also do this and it's helpful. Where have teams made deals in the past? Because these guys are friends with some of their colleagues or some of their competitors around the game, and that helps lead to trades. Some of them just see eye to eye better. The Diamondbacks and Mariners have done some dealing, so that makes sense. The one way I'll go against the conversations or the rumors about Geno Suarez also ending up in Seattle is that the Mariners didn't love him. They traded him away. So they are looking for an impact bat in that lineup. They definitely helped themselves out with Naylor, but I do feel like they called him out a little bit. Jerry DiPoto was very vocal after that season where the Mariners were a strikeout mess, and then they were the next year as well. So talking about after 23, he's like, we need to get better. We cannot have this much swing and miss in our offense and in that ballpark. I felt like he was taking a direct shot at Geno Suarez, not for the person he is. He's a great dude. He's very lovable in the clubhouse, but for the swing and miss that he has in his game and the streakiness. So why would the Mariners suddenly say, okay, now we're going to pay top dollar at the trade market to bring this back?
I'm with you. I think that's a pretty logical line of reasoning there. I too would be surprised if the Mariners were actually the team that made this move. I know there were a lot of reports yesterday that the Mariners are still in on Geno, even though they just acquired Josh Naylor. But it almost feels like those reports always happen. When a team trades for the teammate of one of the players that they're rumored to be interested in. It feels like there's always rumors like, that, they're still interested in that other player too. But it feels like we don't normally see that type of thing happen. And yeah, I mean, when the Diamondbacks acquired Eugenio Suarez a couple of years ago, he was not a premium asset. I mean, I don't know if it would be totally fair to call it a salary dump, but I don't think it would be all that off base either. I mean, the Diamondbacks only gave the Mariners Seby Zavala, who was a backup catcher, and then Carlos Vargas, who is a right-handed reliever, continues to be a factor for the Mariners. He's in their major league bullpen right now, but by no means was a top prospect at the time. His command was way off at that point in his career, more of a lottery ticket sort of player, if anything. So yeah, I would be a little surprised if it wound up being the Mariners. As far as some other teams in the mix, it's really hard to say. I mean, I know the Cincinnati Reds have had reported interest, and we know that the Reds love Geno Suarez. I think there's probably no secrets there. He has a long history in that ballpark. We know the fan base loves him, and he's pretty far removed from his time in Cincinnati at this point. So I could maybe see that happening. But I mean, there's a lot of other teams in the mix here. The Diamondbacks have made some trades with the Brewers in the past. Maybe that becomes a thing. The Tigers are here as well. The Cubs. It's really hard to say, but it looks like the market for Geno is going to be quite a bit more robust than the market for Josh Naylor.
Even with the Yankees out of it, even with one team, by the way, twinning today.
There we
But
go. Love it.
even with the Yankees out of it, anytime we talk about free agency and the big players are out on a free agent, the value goes down. Have the Diamondbacks in past history overvalued a player and then kind of missed out because they didn't keep the market open for everybody?
That's a good question. I mean, this is almost uncharted territory for Diamondbacks general manager Mike Hazen. I mean, he's been around this organization for a long time. This would be his ninth season as the general manager of this team, but the Diamondbacks haven't sold a whole lot under Mike Hazen. They've made a few trades here and there. They traded Zach Greinke to the Astros back in 2019. They traded Starling Marte in 2020 when he was playing really well at the time. But, Greinke had a really big contract. The Diamondbacks had to eat a good portion of that in order to facilitate the trade. Starling Marte, it was 2020, so you were only getting him for a month at that point. I believe he had a club option after that as well. So, the D-backs under Hazen have not done particularly well in sell trades. You look back at that Greinke deal, and really they didn't wind up getting much value in there at all. Josh Rojas was definitely the most productive player, but then they of course traded him to the Mariners as part of the Paul Sewald trade a couple years ago. So the track record here isn't great. I'm not sure we have an exact comparison between what the Eugenio Suarez market looks like right now and what a market has looked like for any other Diamondbacks rentals here in recent seasons. But it'll be interesting to see if Hazen can kind of change course a little bit here and do pretty well for himself in some of these deals.
Jesse, one of the things that Ken Rosenthal, who was just on the show, said was he's hearing that it won't be Gallen and Kelly. It would be one or the other. Do you feel like that's a misstep for the Diamondbacks? I mean, citing the fact that, yes, they still do have to get through the rest of their games with innings, but do you feel like that's a misstep for a team that, in my opinion, still can compete next year and the next year after that with filling some holes, but getting something for both of those guys, to me, seems like the route they should be going?
I agree with you, Kratz. Yeah, I think that if you're going to sell a little, you might as well sell a lot when it comes to your rental players. I don't really understand the thinking of trying to hold on to some of these guys. I mean, would the D-backs be a lot less watchable the rest of the season without Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly? Yes, for sure. Pitching depth has been a problem for them this year, and I think you're probably looking at Anthony DeSclafani stepping in to a rotation spot. They would probably bring Bryce Jarvis up from AAA as well. His track record in the majors as a starter certainly has not been great. So it might be a little ugly, but as you said, this is a team that still has the ability to contend, I think, in 2026 and beyond. And so it feels like you'd want to just get every possible asset out of what's really been a mess of a season for them if you can. The only caveat that I'll give here is that you could give both of these guys qualifying offers. So there's a world where you capitalize on the trade value with one of them and you move one guy, and then in the offseason, you give the other guy a qualifying offer. Likely they reject it. Although I guess with Merrill Kelly, maybe there's a world where he would accept it. But if the player rejects it and they sign somewhere else for $50 million or more, certainly would expect Zach Gallen to hit that number, at least most likely. Then you're getting a draft pick after the first round. So I don't think it's like an egregious decision necessarily if they don't deal both of these guys. Maybe the return just isn't quite what they want it to be, and they'd rather just have a draft pick instead. But yeah, I have a feeling, given the state of this market, that they could do pretty well for both of these guys.
Jesse, last one for you. Anyone else we're missing in terms of pieces that could be dealt big or small by the Diamondbacks? I listened to the full episode last night. It was great. I heard you guys lightly sprinkle in a Lourdes Gurriel conversation, but I haven't seen anything from insiders. So I think D-backs fans can take a big breath, but I'm not sure. Anyone else? Or do you think that there's a chance he could be moved?
I think there's a chance Lourdes could be moved. A local reporter here, John Gambadoro, who definitely has some sourcing, he did say that some teams have asked about him, but he's not a premium asset. He's not Geno Suarez. He really has not had a very good season. He's been basically a replacement level player, and his contract situation is interesting. He could opt out after this season, in which case it's just a 2-month rental. Or he could opt in for next year as well. And then whatever team acquired him would be paying him, I think it's around $13-14 million in 2026. And he hasn't really played up to that level this year. So the Diamondbacks might like to move Lourdes Gurriel Jr. just to get off of the money for next year. I'm not sure if they're going to find a taker on that. As far as other players go, there are some more expiring contracts here. Randal Grichuk has a mutual option for next year, which we don't really ever see those come to fruition on both sides. So I think Grichuk is a player that teams could look at. And then in the bullpen, theoretically, they could get Shelby Miller and Jalen Beeks back from injury here pretty soon. And both of those guys also have their contracts up at the end of the year. I don't think you're getting a ton necessarily for either of them. But Shelby Miller has actually had a really good season for the D-backs in the bullpen. So, relievers certainly in high demand this time of year. It wouldn't shock me if a team made a run at him as well.